वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृद्यन्थस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भागवत्ये उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14, Text 1. Maitreya Uvacha Bhagavadayasते मुनयो लोकानां क्षेमदर्शिनः गोपत्यर्सति वे नृणां पश्यन्तः पशु साम्यताम्. Synonyms. Maitreya Vacha, the great sage Maitreya continued. Bhragu Adyaha, headed by Bhragu, they, all of them. Munyah, the great sages. Lokanam, of the people. Shema Darshinaha, who always aspire for the welfare. Gopatari, the king. Asati, being absent. Vai, certainly. Nirnam, of all the citizens. Pashyantah, having understood. Pashu Samyatam, existence on the level of the animals. Uh, Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Maitreya continued, O great hero Vidura, the great sages headed by Bhrigu were always thinking of the welfare of the people in general. When they saw that in the absence of King Anga, there was no one to protect the interests of the people, they understood that without a ruler, the people would become independent and non-regulated. Purport. In this verse, the significant word is Shema Darshina, which refers to those who are always looking after the welfare of the people in general. All the great sages headed by Bhrigu were always thinking of how to elevate all the people of the universe to the spiritual platform. Indeed, they advised the kings of every planet to rule the people with the ultimate goal of life in mind. The great sages used to advise the head of the state or the king, and he used to rule the populace in accordance with their instructions. After the disappearance of King Anga, there was no one to follow the instructions of the great sages. Consequently, all the citizens became unruly, so much so that they could be compared to animals. As described in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, human society must be divided into four orders according to the quality and work. In every society, there must be an intelligent class, administrative class, productive class, and worker class. In modern democracy, these scientific divisions are turned topsy-turvy, and by vote Shudras or workers are and by vote Shudras or workers are chosen for administrative posts. Having no knowledge of the ultimate goal of life, such persons whimsically enact laws without knowledge of life's purpose. The result is that no one is happy. Text 2. Viramatarmahuyah Sunitam Brahmavadinah Prakartyasammatam Venam Vashyashchinam Patim Bhuvaha. Synonyms. Veera, of Vena, Mataram, mother, Ahuya, calling, Sunitam, of the name Sunita, Brahma Vedina, the great sages learned in the Vedas, Prakriti, by the ministers, Asammatam, not approved of, Venam, Vena, Abhyashchinam, enthroned, Patim, the master, Bhuvaha, of the world. Translation. The great sages then called for the Queen Mother Sunita, and with her permission they installed Vena on the throne as master of the world. All the ministers, however, disagreed with this. Text 3. Shrutva nrapasana Vena matyur gashashanam nilyudashayaha sadaya sarpatrasta ivakavaha. Synonyms. Shrutva, after hearing, Nirpa of the king. Asanagatam, ascended to the throne. Venam, Vena. Ati, very. Ugra, severe. Shashanam, punisher. Niliyoha, hid themselves. Dasyaha, all the thieves. Sadayaha, immediately. Sarpa, from snakes. Trashtaha, being afraid. Iva, like. Akhavaha, rats. Translation. It was already known that Vena was very severe and cruel. Therefore, as soon as the thieves and rogues in the state heard of his ascendance to the royal throne, they become they became very much afraid of him. Indeed, they hid themselves here and there as rats hide themselves from snakes. Purport. When the government is very weak, rogues and thieves flourish. Similarly, when the government is very strong, all the thieves and rogues disappear or hide themselves. Of course, Vena was not a very good king, but he was known to be cruel and severe. Thus, the state at least became freed from thieves and rogues. End of purport. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas so that I can use today's lecture to purify myself. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to purify myself. I am going to read from a lecture given by His Holiness Niranjan Swami Maharaj. Please pardon me if I make any mistake in summarizing this. In these verses, we can see that Bhrigu Muni and other sages became very concerned after seeing the state of government because King Anga had left to the forest and there was nobody remaining who can manage the kingdom. So, because of this, the citizens became independent and non-regulative, and there was chaos. So, Srila Prabhupada takes this opportunity, this pastime, to describe how the society became topsy-turvy and how there was no leader to define the ultimate goal of life for the interest of citizens. So the leaders of the society are put in their position by men who have no attraction for hearing the message of God. So these men, and we see this in modern democracy also, there are people who are like hogs and dogs and asses and who have no idea of what is the ultimate goal of life, and they vote for people similar to them, and then these people, when they become leaders, they provide the means for their populace to live like animals. So these people don't want to be ruled at all. They want free for all, right? This is the symptom of Kali Yuga. Like you do whatever you like and I will do whatever I like. It is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto by Yamaraj, who was speaking to Yamadutas, that just like a driver of a bullock cart, he uses a rope that goes through the nostrils of the bulls to control them. Same way, Supreme Personality of Godhead binds all human beings in human society by the ropes of his words given in the Vedas. Due to these fear of these rules and regulations, man worship the Lord and offer him the fruits of their respective activities. When a bull has a rope going through his nostrils, bull may be resistant and unwilling, but if the driver wants him to go in some direction, he pulls it. And because of the pain, he follows the driver's instruction. So, Yamraj uses the same analogy as to how people are supposed to be bound by the words of Supreme Lord. But this is the first stage, that one has to become obedient of laws of God. We know that most living entities in the human society are conditioned by the laws of nature, and they are not liberated souls. And the first stage of their God realization is they need to know the rules and regulations. Now, they may follow it out of fear or out of a sense of duty, but that is the first stage. But liberated souls worship Supreme Lord from a higher platform than fear. Their worship is from the platform of love. So, uh, people who are still influenced by modes of material nature have to follow the rules and regulations set forth by Supreme Lord in the scriptures. So, thus, Yamraj gives the example of this, that they perform their duties in fear. Now, king is the representation of Supreme Lord, and he is supposed to act in accordance with the directions and guidance coming from the sages. That's why we see in olden times, the kings will have Brahminical advisors and they will take their counsel before making any important decision. So the idea was that the Brahmins and the sages could advise them according to Shastra, and so that the decision is made perfectly. Now, it is the king's responsibility to see that everyone is performing their duty. And if he fails in doing that, then the society will turn into chaos. King is supposed to be the implementer of the laws and rules. But in Kali Yuga, we see that neither there are any qualified kings or rulers, nor there are any qualified Brahminical advisors. So everything is chaotic. Once Srila Prabhupada, he was received in Paris. There was a huge mansion, and he was received by very important dignitaries of that time, and the mayor of Paris also came. And uh, when the mayor came, everybody stood up to welcome him, and Prabhupada was still sitting. So one of his disciples said, Prabhupada, here the custom is that we stand up for the mayor. So Srila Prabhupada asked him, Srila Prabhupada told him, I'm ready to stand up, but is the mayor qualified? Now, the mayor was supposed to welcome Srila Prabhupada with a welcome speech. So he was a bit flustered that Prabhupada did not get up to welcome him. But anyway, when he finished, it was Prabhupada's turn to speak. And Prabhupada used this opportunity to go for the jugular vein, and he started preaching that it is the duty of leaders of society to see that everyone is advancing in spiritual life, failing to which their leadership is no better than animal life. So he went on and on to explain the importance of spiritual leadership. The essence of his talk is that a leader who does not understand the importance of God realization is not a leader and should not be followed. He used to say, Srila Prabhupada used to say that laws of God can be produced in the fertile mind of a man and coming from God himself. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So leaders of society can't create laws that have no connection whatsoever to the laws of Lord. And if they do that, they do it to protect their own economic interests and not the interest of citizens. The real protection for citizens is to ensure that this is their last birth. This is the protection that everybody needs. But what is happening today is the leaders are preparing their citizens to become animals in next life. And this is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain in these verses, that when there is no strong king who actually maintains the goal of human society based on spiritual principles, then there will be no spiritual life. As mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.5.15, Narayana Para Veda Deva, Narayana Angaja, Narayana Para Loka, Narayana Paramakha. Then the next verse says, Narayana Para Yogo, Narayana Param Tapah, Narayana Param Jnanam, Narayana Paragati. What it means is that the Vedic literatures are made and meant for the Supreme Lord, right? The demigods are also meant to serve Supreme Lord as parts of his body. The different planets are also meant for the sake of Lord, and different sacrifices are performed just to please him. And the goal of all yogic principles is Supreme Lord. All austerities is also Supreme Lord. All knowledge is also Supreme Lord. And the ultimate destination, the ultimate salvation is also Supreme Lord. So this must be understood by the leaders of society and lead citizens properly. And Prabhupada used to give an example. During autumn season, due to the presence of clouds, all the luminaries in the sky are covered by clouds. And when one looks up, he only sees glowworms. These clouds are compared to the clouds of Kali Yuga. In the age of Kali Yuga, people mistake glowworms on the trees to the real luminaries in the sky. This is why we see hogs and dogs and asses glorify those who are not interested in discussing the pastimes of Supreme Lord. Real luminaries are those who are conversant with the laws of God and study the scriptures. But human society does not glorify them. This is why it is common for movie stars to become political leaders or some famous person. In US, one famous wrestler became the governor of a state. So people don't really know what to look in real leaders. They just look for someone who will facilitate their sense gratification. So human society needs to be voluntarily ruled by a higher authority. Rules by Shastra and those who are conversant with the Shastra. This way, we should allow ourselves to be bound by the words of Supreme Personality of Godhead, just like a bull is controlled by a rope going through his nostrils. This is voluntary submission. Unless one voluntarily accepts this submission, it is very difficult to progress in human life. Yesterday, Maharaj was also saying that one of the reasons for fall down is when we start slackening in our submission. So, Rishabdev asked his sons to accept austerities and penances to achieve the divine position of devotional service. By such activities, one's heart is purified, and then one comes to the platform of transcendental happiness, which is superior to material happiness and which continues forever, right? We can see one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga is that people are not happy. They are quarrelsome and there is hypocrisy everywhere. So the only people who are happy in this age of Kali Yuga are the people who voluntarily accept the penances for devotional service, who voluntarily accepts the rules made by Supreme Personality of Godhead and offer loving devotional service. With this, I would like to end. Vancha Kalpatarubhya